If you're watching this video, that means you have been summoned for jury duty. For some, the first reaction to seeing that summons is how inconvenient it will be to serve as a juror. After all, jury duty conflicts with everyday obligations we have at work and home. It interrupts the flow of our lives. Hold that thought for a moment and step back from the process temporarily so that we can appreciate how lucky we are to be able to think of jury service in that light. For centuries all throughout the world, people have fought for one of the most fundamental rights known to all of us, the right to be judged by a jury of one's peers, not by tyrants or dictators or professional jurists, but by our fellow citizens, by members of our community. Even today, people in foreign lands strive for that basic element of any system of justice. We are fortunate to be able to take for granted the privilege enshrined in our federal and state constitutions, both of which guarantee the right to trial by jury. Along with that right and privilege comes responsibility. So when friends have asked me from time to time how they might get out of jury duty, my answer is always the same. We are lucky to live in a society that asks us to perform this basic duty of citizenship, and we must all serve when called, or the system we value will not work. Thank you for appearing today as a potential juror. I hope that your service will be meaningful and rewarding. While it may be inconvenient in some respects, you have every right to be proud of your contribution to the cause of justice.
Many things have changed about America since the Constitution was signed, but our basic trial process is essentially the same now as it has been for more than 2 centuries. Today, as always, you, the juror, are the mainstay of American justice. We depend on your sense of fairness, your attention to duty and detail, your human experience. You and a million other Americans will judge more than 120,000 cases this year. And although each one is different, there are certain people and procedures that are the same for every trial. We're going to show you step by step what you can expect. As a juror, you may be selected for a civil trial or for a criminal trial. A civil trial is among parties who have a dispute and need the court system to resolve it. A criminal trial deals with charges that a crime has been committed. In both cases, the one who initiates the case is called the plaintiff. The one who responds to the plaintiff's case is the defendant, and both sides are usually represented by attorneys. Depending on the type of case, the way we refer to the attorney for the plaintiff varies. In a civil trial, it's easy. We simply say the plaintiff's attorney. In a criminal trial, the state of New Jersey is actually the plaintiff. In this case, we call the attorney for the plaintiff the prosecutor. Your first encounter with the courtroom will be during the jury selection process.
Roger Casella, please take seat number 7 in the upper row. Megan Baxter, seat number 8, top row, next to the last juror.
This is called voir dire, which is French for speak the truth. The person responsible for swearing in the jury and witnesses, as well as marking exhibits, is the court clerk. If sound recording equipment is being used to make the trial record, the clerk may also handle that equipment, or it may be sound recorded by a special operator or video recorded. When a trial is not being recorded by sound or video, you'll see a court reporter keeping the record. You may also see a sheriff's officer who maintains security and enforces decorum in the courtroom, and a court aide who is responsible for assisting with the proceedings.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned in the beginning, I'll be asking you a series of questions. Please think carefully about your answers before you give them. And those of you still seated in the gallery, please also carefully consider how you would answer them. You may be directed to replace a seated juror who may have been excused. It's important to always keep in mind that the court and the parties in this case have a right to select what they believe to be an impartial jury.
The judge questions the jurors during the voir dire to see if there's any reason why a particular juror may not be impartial. During the actual trial, the judge conducts the proceedings, ruling on questions of evidence and instructing the jury on the law.
Miss Laura Gallagher, who's seated at the table nearest you, has sued the defendant, Mr. Benjamin Edwards. claiming injuries arising from an accident on September 10th of last year at the corner of Oak and Main Streets in Mapleton. Both the plaintiff, Miss Laura Gallagher, and the defendant, Mr. Edwards, are being represented by attorneys who will introduce themselves to you in a moment. The purpose of what we're doing now is to choose a jury. So let's begin.
This voir dire is for a civil trial. The judge is explaining the case to the prospective jurors. Jurors may be given a printed list of the questions that will be asked during jury selection in this trial. The jurors will also be informed of the names of parties, attorneys, and witnesses who are involved in the trial. If it were a criminal case, the judge would explain the charges against the defendant.
Do any of you know the defendant in this case? If so, please raise your hand. The record will show no affirmative response.
The voir dire relies on one very important factor, that each juror will give honest and complete answers.
The persons whose names are shown on the witness list will be called to testify in this trial. Witnesses are Jody Thompson, Kareem Assad, Officer John Carter, Dr. Victoria Ryan, and Michelle Sudikoff. Do you think you know any of these people? Ms. Rivera.
I work at Mercy Hospital, and Dr. Ryan is on staff there.
Do you work with her?
We haven't actually worked together, but I've certainly heard a lot about her.
Your Honor, I move to have Ms. Rivera excused for cause due to her previous relationship with Dr. Ryan.
The defense attorney is asking the judge to dismiss this particular juror because she knows one of the witnesses in this case. When it appears a juror may not be completely impartial, either side's attorney can move for dismissal. This is called dismissal for cause.
Ms. Rivera, you may be excused. Please call another juror.
Andrew Willis, please take seat number 3.
The attorneys are also allowed to have a juror dismissed without giving a reason. This is called a peremptory challenge. Both sides are allowed only a limited number of peremptory challenges. If you're excused for cause or on a peremptory, don't be offended. This is just the system working the way it was intended to.
Please rise. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you will try the matter in dispute?
The number of jurors needed depends on whether it's a civil or criminal case, so don't be surprised to see empty seats in the jury box. In either case, the court often seats more jurors than needed so that there will be a sufficient number of jurors in the event that a juror is unable to finish the trial. It may be necessary for the trial judge to randomly designate alternate jurors prior to deliberation.